In less than 3 years, my goddaughter would graduate with a delicious combo of two important degrees from an American university, a Doctor of Medicine and a PhD, two in one, all at once. She has no time to even drive around looking for coffee to buy. So she brews her own coffee at home, and she loves Starbucks. A PhD, and combining that with a Doctor of Medicine degree, these are painful undertakings. You dread the thought of meeting your supervisor because they are at liberty to cancel out a chapter they approved only yesterday so that you start again. If you did a botched lab experiment, it means you need to start everything again. If your literature review was faulty, that has implications for your methodology. So you need to maybe start everything again. And so you're always in a different world. You're not really part of human pleasures at all. And yet, people fake PhDs. So you go around and there are people who never really sat down to read anything, never sat down to develop a thesis, and yet they dish out a PhD like a confetti. And they're taking up your shine, they're taking your glory. And people who have done the toil can't stand this, right? They feel betrayed, they feel fooled, they feel cheated. Some fake PhDs even end up in politics, and some even in academia, and they teach other students, even with a fake PhD, right? And at this moment in Ghana, we have a situation like that of an alleged fake medical doctor who was lucky to have had appointment onto a public board, the National Insurance Board. She's there, and it was found out that the credentials were not exactly genuine, and so the president has had to revoke that appointment and instead replace her with a real one, Dr. Ernest York, that I know personally, fantastic individual. And so that matter has engaged lots of public commentary, and that happens to be our topic for this installment of Tissues of the Issues. Before we go any further, as you do always, if you want to click on the button for notification so you see what's coming next, and also most importantly, subscribe to this channel for us, please. Like the channel and also leave us a comment so you know what you're thinking. So the topic for today is dilly-dallying about a fake PhD. Dilly-dallying about a fake PhD, and you would spot the name of the individual even in our title. So the doctor's name is Dr. Anne Sansa Daly. She was the individual that allegedly brought in a fake PhD, a fake medical doctor degree, and now it's been revoked. Now, let's get to understand how we got here. Let's also get to question our own collective culpability in how we validate people in our country. We're a society that is hooked on degrees, especially foreign degrees, right? We hook on money exhibitionism. We hooked on people who have made it a dictum that they will fake it until they make it. And we've seen them really fake it, and they actually make it too, right? Go to the charismatic stream, and you see prophets who dish out prophecies like confetti. They even pronounce a verdict on who will win the elections next year. But when we still live with them, we have literally validated them, right? Come to go on radio and you see strange experts who pretend to speak the national consensus on our thorniest matters. Didn't we just watch while people paid their way to build mansions on the Ramsar sites, and today we're pulling them down? So that is the kind of society that we are, right? And so if somebody sneaks in with a PhD, perhaps we should all blame ourselves. Now, Dr. Daly didn't just get up there. Dr. Daly had alliances. She had associates. She worked her way to a radio station, to a television station, and hosted a show on national television, right? We understand she had a show on health matters on GH1. So people will call in and she would offer medical advice. Some even suspect that she may have been practicing medicine in Ghana, for all we know, right? And so how did she manage to get through all of this, right? So that is the kind of society that we are. And so let's perhaps accept that we set Dr. and Delhi up. We set her up to fail all of us. And so let's pick some of the blame. Now, How are we supposed to have spotted the fake PhD? In Nigeria, during President Buhari's time, the Punch newspaper reported that as many as 6 people were appointed onto public board and some important national, areas to manage national issues when they were actually dead. So these were people who had died and were buried, and they still found their names on, official government papers, having given boards, giving public appointments to go manage. All right. And so these things happen. And so that's the same thing that has happened in Ghana. That, well, if at least she was alive, she wasn't dead, right? In Nigeria, they were dead and they still got appointed. So we're kind of lucky here, right? I mean, well, that's a pun. So, but how did we get here? I mean, what happened? So we do know that in Dr. Daly's case, some patriot called Reginald St. Brown wrote to the university, Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, to inquire about Dr. Daly, that he's not sure that she holds those credentials. And the university responded with just a dismissive one-liner. Hello, we do not know this individual here. It was never there. Dismiss the case like that, right? But people are saying, well, we can't dismiss ours like that. We need to maybe look at how the law would deal with issues like that, okay? And so maybe that is how academia would treat people like that. They just dismiss it. But for somebody who has been through the toil of going through a PhD or 7 years to become a medical doctor, they just can't say, okay, so she's a fake, so let's let her go. They feel fooled. They feel cheated. They feel betrayed. That when they stay up all night dreading the thought of meeting your supervisor, they say when you go into a PhD, your life is literally in the hands of your supervisor, and your supervisor's marriage could tell on how they grade your report, right? So if they are angry at life, they visit that on your report. In somebody that I know, a friend of mine, his supervisor was a nice guy, and he had done chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and the next day that he showed up, the man had become a cross dresser. So somebody now begins to dress like a woman, just changed his situation. Now he was a man, now he dresses like a woman, wearing, women's shoes. And that's the kind of individual that we're going to work, you're going to rate your thesis. What can they say? They can just change anything. They can just strike everything out. So it's not a joke to go through. Many people give up on the way. And so we have something that we call ABD. So you do the coursework and all but dissertation. So they just can't go through the dwell, right? It's not something that is for people who are, who don't mean business. And so when we have somebody getting away with a fake like that, we kind of say, well, we can't just let it pass like that, right? But how do we spot a fake PhD? Okay, so people are saying that, well, a whole government machinery should have been able to write to the university to check it out, right? But it turns out that they just went through. So people are actually asking, so how many Andelis are hiding in certain corners in Ghana that we don't know about? Okay, but that will be a story for another day. Now, some people are saying that the way to spot a fake PhD is just to sit anybody down. Anybody who says, okay, I have a PhD, I have a medical doctor, sit one down, and then put her favorite coffee or even wache and look deep into their eyes and ask them to tell you about their research or even their topic, just the topic that they wrote on. If you don't see a fog of sadness sitting atop their eyelids, then they are lying. Because once you go through that experience, the moment you hear about a PhD, it kind of gets you to replay all the terrible moments, the nights that you spent. So if you ask them about their research and they're able to deliver anything, and you don't feel that sadness suddenly splash their faces, then perhaps they are lying. If you look at their foreheads and you don't see that morose, impressions, that is to say that it's kind of replaying those sad moments, those sad days of panic meetings with your supervisor. If you don't have a replay of that on their faces, then they are lying. No, what that means is that that's why sometimes, once they look old. All right. So if you see anybody with a PhD looking so fresh, then perhaps they faked it. And somebody on Ghana Web is saying that, well, if you looking at the way Anne somebody with a PhD or somebody who has gone through that well wouldn't have the pleasure of posing for selfies and dressing up in a way that is so libidinous and flirtatious just to pump up their hips and kind of taking life too leisurely. Anybody who had gone through that kind of drilling would not be looking at life with those eyes. Kind of they are a bit serious, right? If you look at I remember my professors back in Legon, they don't smile around at all. I mean, these are something that takes you away from the usual pleasures of life. You cannot be too excited about life once you're going through a PhD. So that is what the person was saying. Well, I mean, that is a way we could have used to spot Dr. Daly that way. I mean, this kind of individual is too leisurely, is too casual, doesn't look serious enough to have done a PhD. So, but even that, as we get to understand how these things happen and whether it would happen again, let's also get to appreciate our own collective capability in this whole process. Now, what is our verdict for today? So on this channel, what we do is that we give a verdict, right, on the things that we have discussed. So this is just a 15 or 10 minute video presentation of our weekly article. So we publish an article every week in a newspaper called the News Center. We have a column in there. The column title is Tissues of the Issue. So we just do a summary of it. Those who can read the paper can now access the content, on this video here. So that's what we do. So our verdict for today is that we were all culpable in Dr. Ann Daly's case, and that we set her up. We all helped in the making of Dr. Ann Daly, just as we helped in making people who have become prophets in Ghana. And we've been with them for so long, and we've seen them do terrible things, and we're still with them. We've literally validated people like that. Okay, if you listen to radio and people, policy wonks, so to speak, who literally lollygag, kind of idle about just pontificating issues they don't have enough control on, and we're still with them. People like that. Okay, so we all helped in making people like that come to eventually take our shine, take our glory. So maybe Dr. Ann has given us a wake-up call that the next time somebody presents a certificate, we want to find out how they got it, right? Especially for a PhD. And Dr. Ann perhaps went a bit too far, right? How do you say you got a 4.0 from no less a place than Johns Hopkins University? If she had chosen a less known place, somewhere in Ukraine or some obscure location that she did a PhD, maybe we wouldn't have found out, right? And how many people perhaps are on boards that we don't know about? Okay, and in this case, perhaps the government could have done a lot better in trying to find out who Dr. Ann Daly was. And there's also another dynamic to this whole thing. What perhaps got us to be interested in her case is that there are two individuals, two radio people or two internet sensations who are, we understand, have a few things to do with Dr. Daly. So one is Okatechio, who we understand happens to be a former boyfriend of the lady and perhaps was about to, as part of Love Gone Sour, went to expose her or something like that. And the other character is our favorite individual in the States, Mr. Kevin Taylor, who we also know is acquainted with the lady. And so a banter between Okatechie and Mr. Taylor perhaps was part of the reasons why we got interested in their matter. And so Daly has become a popular figure in this case. So as we go on, let's get to appreciate how these things work. Okay. And these days, if anybody came out with, say, a degree they got online. So I sometimes you cannot be sure how these things work, right? Because you can get a degree and you never sat in a classroom. You did everything online and you be graded. All right. I have a degree from a prestigious university that I purely online. And frankly, I don't have a lot of faith in degrees that are acquired that way. Because these days, a traditional way of doing a degree is you sit down, you burn the proverbial midnight oil, you meet your supervisor, get graded, and you get away with it, right? So, but things are changing these days. You can get a chat GPT AI generation, so you can literally buy a degree online, buy fake things online. You can same way. Okay, so you can really rent somebody to write out your entire thesis for you. All these things are there. So I'm really asking that, right? So if somebody actually went to university, enrolled properly, you will find a name, but they outsource, all these things for people to do it for them. They will still get a degree. It will come out. How do you say it's fake? Okay, so we are for a long ride as far as these things are concerned. So this has been this edition of Tissues of the Issues. You'll come your way again next week for yet another exciting edition. So before we do go, please, if you can subscribe to this channel for us, give us a comment and also like the channel. This has been Tissues of the Issues. Thank you. Bye-bye.